Joker 2 was good. It was really good. And I'm not trying to play devil's advocate here. I went into the theater with very low expectations because of everything I had heard. I sat there for the entire movie waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for the moment when it was going to derail and I was going to be able to dogpile on like everybody else. But when I walked out of the theater, the only thing I felt was befuddlement. Befuddlement as to why this movie got so much hate. It doesn't make sense, and there has been nothing I have seen online in all the discourse that explains why it gets so much hate. And that really is my main gripe with everything I'm hearing. It's okay not to like a movie, it's okay to say, oh, this isn't for me, but to hate on it on such a ginormous level, to put it underneath the likes of Madam Web, Morbius, and Borderlands is insane. It has a worse score than those three movies I just mentioned and has a worse box office than Morbius. How is that possible? Even Fantastic Four has a better cinema score than Joker 2. The problem I have is that those movies are pretty much irredeemable. There is nothing about them that you can point to and say, oh yeah, that's good, that has a redeeming quality about it. Right off rip, red flags were going up that something wasn't right with what I was hearing about the movie. The cinematography is just beautiful. Beautiful enough to warrant it immediately being better than any of those other garbage movies I mentioned. So I knew something was wrong. And like I said, I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was waiting for the moment where it was gonna be, oh, this is shit. And then it just never happened. And there's been nothing I've seen online that actually properly explains why people don't like this movie. Aside from the fact that they don't like musicals. Now look, I get it. It's fine not to like musicals. Everybody has their own taste. But hating it only because of that, because you somehow didn't know it was a musical, even though the fucking internet exists and you definitely knew it was a musical, is just asinine to me. And I get that the marketing was bad, such as with Mean Girls and Wonka, but again, you had to have known this was going to have music in it before going in. But again, it's not that part that's annoying me. It's the part that they say, I don't like musicals, to which the question is, okay, what did you not like about it? And the answer is, I don't like musicals. I need the why, though. I don't like the music because of X. My friend Delio gave the first really good review of it that I've seen anywhere. He says he doesn't like musicals, but then explains why. The music takes him out of it. That's completely fair. It just irks me when I don't actually get the reason why. And I think the reason why is because people don't have a reason why. There's a good chance most of the people hating on this movie haven't even seen the movie. I think too many people just want to hop on the hate hype train, the feel included, because it's so much easier than actually forming your own standalone opinion with a well thought out position on why you actually didn't like the movie. And I get it, I am a hypocrite. I have done that before. Hell, I did it with this movie. I was mocking it and joking around with friends about how bad Joker 2 is, and oh great, I gotta go sit there in theaters and watch it for 2 hours. But then I did that, at 10 a.m. mind you, and I walked out of the theater a completely enlightened man. Anyway, let me talk about what I liked about the movie. Let me tell you why I think it's great. Right off the bat, I think the cartoon at the beginning is great. It's a fun gimmick, and it gets the point across of what the movie's gonna be about, and really what the last two movies have been about, which is that the Joker is gonna be fighting with his inner self. Then there's the cinematography. Lauren Sher was the director of photography on the movie, and he did a fantastic job. I mean, literally the entire movie looks great. There's not a moment where I'm taken out of it by the cinematography at all. I love the way it looks, especially the musical scenes. And I should have mentioned it already, but I do like musicals, so I do have that bias in favor of the movie, which most people have the opposite of. But man, does the movie look good. I mean, he absolutely nailed the tone and the look of every scene that he filmed. Now let's talk about the story. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and I thought it was a perfect follow-up from the first movie, which a lot of people didn't, and again, I just don't know why. The first movie and this movie both follow the theme that it's the ideas, the mindset, the messages that are dangerous. Not exactly the individual person, not Arthur Fleck. Arthur Fleck is just one person. It's what happens when you spread that kind of chaos around. What it can bring upon a city, what it can bring upon people, and what it brings out in people, which is the worst. Sowing the seeds of hate of which anyone can latch onto and reproduce is the real problem. Anyone can be the Joker. When you encourage chaos and fan the flames of hate, it can cause anybody to take up that mantle. And more broadly, it can cause a whole group of people to take up that mantle. At the end of the first movie, we see this, with the Joker's loyal followers causing chaos in the streets. And that continues into this movie, when we see his loyal followers continuing to cause chaos and support him. And again, it's not really Arthur Fleck they're supporting, it's the Joker. The whole point of this second movie is that there's Arthur Fleck, and then there's his shadow, the Joker. The Joker is the problem. He is the harbinger of chaos. He's the one that carries the message, the one that carries the hate that other people can latch onto. Arthur Fleck is just someone that we can physically see going through that battle between good and bad, between wanting to have a normal life and having the Joker cause absolute mayhem. And this is exactly what comes to fruition when we see Arthur killed in the end. And I know people hated the ending, but I fucking loved it. I love that he died. It made so much sense, and it just brought everything together for me. These movies are about the idea of the Joker and how dangerous that can be. And they follow that theme so well. And him getting killed by someone that he essentially created is so ironic and perfect. And that guy might take up the mantle of the next Joker. Or maybe he's just some crazy fucking guy who murdered somebody because of the ideas that Arthur Fleck spread. I also think this is what makes Harley's character really good in this movie. Harley to me is somebody that, again, is in love with the idea of the Joker, not the person himself. So when Arthur kind of repents and takes it back, she just moves on. She doesn't give a fuck. She loves the idea of chaos, the idea of what the Joker stands for, but she could not give two shits about the person themselves. Also, the courtroom bombing scene is another great example. A bomb goes off and people are killed, and you initially think it's a breakout attempt. But then you kind of just see Arthur in the rubble and you're like, you probably could have been killed by that. They should be more careful next time. And then you realize that it had nothing to do with breaking Arthur out. It was just a crazy guy that wanted to blow up the courthouse. He doesn't care if Arthur lives or dies. Nobody actually cares about him. They just care about the Joker. And you can even look at this as foreshadowing for Arthur's death later in the movie by some psycho that he essentially created. It just so happened that this bomb didn't quite get him, but later on in the movie, he wouldn't be so lucky. Again, that's why I think this was a great sequel to the first Joker film. Lots of people wanted the Joker to escape and start being the Joker of chaos from the comics and other movies. But that wouldn't make sense in the context of these movies. These movies are about Arthur Fleck and his struggle with the Joker alter ego and what that stands for. He was never a complete bad guy psychopath, and I love how this movie shows how beaten down and sad he really is with how his life turned out. If you're in Arkham prison and you're getting beaten and abused every single day, you're not gonna be some happy-go-lucky Joker caricature. You're gonna be a sad, broken man. My favorite scene in the entire movie is when Puddles takes the stand. I love how everything up to that point is kind of goofy and jokery and he's doing his foghorn leghorn bit, but then Puddles just breaks right through all of that bullshit. His speech is so powerful, and you could see it on Arthur's face. You could see it breaking through and bothering him, that he hurt a genuine friend. Not physically, but emotionally. And it really starts to put into perspective what the Joker does to people, even if they weren't physically involved with him. And after Puddle's speech, after all the abuse he faced, he just cracks and he just breaks down and admits that no, he doesn't want to be the Joker. Arthur was a lonely man who wanted nothing else but to be accepted in the world, and the only time he was when that Joker character came out, when his shadow took control. But it was never really what he wanted. They loved Joker. They loved the idea of Joker. And that is the point. Look, it's fine if you don't like a movie. It's fine if you hated this movie. And you might have several reasons why, and I would love to hear them. I've said it before, and I feel like I've been saying it a million times over the past couple of weeks as I talk to people about this movie. But my biggest problem is just the amount of hate it's gotten. It just doesn't correlate to the movie itself. You don't have to like musicals. The music can completely take you out of this movie. You don't have to like the story, whatever. But giving it the amount of hate it's gotten and just saying, music bad, 0 stars, is such a lame way to talk about movies. But that's just my opinion. Have a good day and think freely.
There's a romance to Arthur in the first film. Like when he dances in the bathroom, Arthur has music in him. That was a logical leaping off point for the sequel.